Saturday, September 2nd, 2017, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So first of all, I'd like to talk a little bit about the philosophy behind my YouTube channel, what I mean by contrarian views, alternative economics, just a refresher as I get more and more subscribers and viewers, different viewers. Well, my premise as an alternative economics proponent is basically to go against the grain of the mainstream economics, profession and the type of economics that they teach at universities, mainstream economics, the type of economics that they use for the models on Wall Street and the city of London, which is basically Keynesian economics. It's a kind of economics that takes big government for granted. It's the kind of economics that takes government intervention for granted and doesn't question the effectiveness of government intervention in a supposed free market capitalist economy. So, and why do I espouse alternative economics? Well, because I think it promotes better, communities, better economies, better societies. Basically, it's more of the Austrian, philosophy of small government, regulation, very little regulation for the market. Allowing free market competition to be the regulator, allowing consumers to be the best judges of what business or what enterprise is not worth dealing with. I think, with big government, loads of regulation and red tape, it just makes people complacent. Do I believe in people ripping other people off, businesses or consumers? Because some people rip businesses off, they steal, they shoplift or they commit fraud. No, I don't believe in all that. I believe in the, people acting in a civil, lawful manner. But it doesn't mean to say that I believe that free market encourages actually lawlessness, because it doesn't. I think what encourages lawlessness even more is what we have today, where the big corporations are basically, they have bought out, the politicians and the big government. In most Western countries, government, the public sector now is running at almost 50%, of the economy. So are we really free? And, and some people seem to think, a lot of people still think that we need big government to survive, to run as an economy, but we don't. Government always seems to, screw things up, and everything that they promise, they deliver the complete opposite. The war on poverty in the 1960s, has that improved anything? The war on terror, has that improved anything? The Federal Reserve was created to promote a flexible, currency and stop financial disasters, financial collapses and crises. Has that changed in the last 100 years or so that the Fed's been around? No, the financial crises are getting even worse. Another war that was supposed to end all wars, World War I, has that ended up well? So it's all government policies and plans that end up, delivering the opposite. That's why we need small government. We need, I think it was Thomas Jefferson who said, when the people fear the government, that's tyranny, and when the government fears the people, that's liberty. That's what we need. And that's what I try to come across my message in my videos. I also, of course, follow the markets. I know the markets are not perfect. There's a lot of manipulation, a lot of control by the powers that be. But it doesn't mean to say you can't play their game to try to beat them at it or to try to benefit from it as well. But in the long run, of course, I still believe with where the system is right now, the fiat money system is, the best thing is to be your own central bank. This is what actually Jim Sinclair originally said. I think Greg Mannarino says it as well. And what does that mean? Well, that just means being fairly independent financially. And by that, I mean not having a lot of money, but per se, but not dealing too much with the financial institutions that we have nowadays that are regulated and controlled by the central banks and the governments. Because they haven't been fixed after the 2008 crisis. So how do you do that? Well, you try to hold as much of your wealth if you're able to, accumulate some of it, because a lot of people out there are struggling because, the cost of living has gone up, wages haven't followed up with the cost of living. People are struggling, so they've got very little at the end of the month to save. But for those of you who are lucky enough, I think, yeah, try to keep it outside the system. How do you do that? Well, pay off your debts. Because, if you've got debts, that means you're dealing with these people, with the financial powers that be. Hold real money, which is physical gold and silver, real assets, property, real estate, unencumbered, of course, not with a mortgage. Yeah, all the things that make sense to you. And I guess the other thing is, well, make sure you live within your means. That's I've always said that in my videos. But does that mean, being your own central bank, being skeptical of the system, does that mean you're completely out of the system? No, you need to be in the system, and you need also maybe to look at opportunities, because even in crisis, there are opportunities, and you can't keep yourself from acting, thinking the world's going to end or the system's going to collapse. Even though, there are a lot of people think it might, but even when the system goes down, there are opportunities. Cryptocurrencies, they've grown very fast, in the last few years. That's an opportunity, but very risky as well. ICOs, I think they're just applications of the new technology of the blockchain and cryptology. And a lot of Tom, Dicks and Harrys are trying to start things, businesses based on this. And that's what it's all about. A lot of them are going to be duds. A lot of them could be home runs. So you need to, as I said, free market, individualism. It's up to the individual to do their homework and decide whether they want to speculate, how much they want to speculate. When I do my videos, sometimes now about the ICOs, that's just to inform you. Do I think they're all going to succeed? Of course not. Do I think, other things are going to succeed? Maybe, maybe not. So that's what I wanted to say at the moment, that, you need to keep an open mind and be contrarian, though. Be skeptical. So always do your homework. But don't let it completely stop you from trying new things. You do need to have an open mind. As for the markets, yesterday we had non-farm payroll. The number was weaker than expected, and they revised down the number from the previous 2 months. So gold and silver did fairly well. They look very good technically, but we've had, almost, 6 years where you know, or 5.5 years, kind of, that the market's been like, you know, disappointing the people, you know, the gold bugs, so to speak, or the precious metals investors. And even though, you know, it looks like we're breaking out, I think a lot of people are still not convinced. And the move in cryptocurrencies has, you know, diverted attention from precious metals, even though cryptocurrencies, you know, the market cap is fairly small still compared to, I think it's around 100 billion or so, you know, Ethereum and Bitcoin compared to precious metals. Yeah, so even, you know, with gold and silver maybe not spiking higher, they're holding their value well. I know some people bought it at the top in 2011. They're not doing well, but that's the other thing. You know, you have to look at gold and silver as money. And if you've got extra fiat money at the end of the month, you just accumulate a little bit of silver, or if you can, gold, and dollar cost average it. So what else? Oh, I saw an interesting story as well on Zero Hedge yesterday. And it said, petition to label George Soros, and I quote, as a domestic terrorist, has 80,000 signatures. And it goes on to say here, in less than 2 weeks, a whitehouse.gov petition demanding that billionaire investor George Soros be declared a domestic terrorist and that authorities seize his multi-billion-dollar fortune has garnered nearly enough signatures to force the Trump administration to issue a formal response. The petition, which has attracted 80,000 signatures so far, just 20,000 shy of the 100,000 signature threshold, where a response would be required, accuses Soros of being guilty of sedition by financing groups that help support violent Antifa counter-protesters and other dangerous leftist groups. So this story was published yesterday at 4:15 p.m. New York time, and I've looked at the White House petition website page, and this petition now has 106,000 signatures. So it's gone over the 100,000 goal, and it had to September 19th. So quite a bit of interest. Whether something will be done about this, I don't know. George Soros, if some of you might know, he kind of broke the Bank of England in 1992. He made, I think, $1 billion shorting the British pound when the pound, there's a ERM crisis, European Rate Mechanism crisis. The pound collapsed like overnight. I think it was September 1992, you know, September, that period of time. And he's also well known to fund, you know, a lot of NGOs in Eastern Europe. He's been behind a lot of the movements, like the color movements and revolutions in Eastern and Central Europe. So interesting to see this. Will anything come out of it? We'll have to see. White House might have to respond. We'll have to wait. In terms of the gold and the stock market, the Dow now is still up 19% in the last year. So, and gold doing quite well year to date now, up 15.5%. Silver lagging, up 11.3%. So now with the weak job data and also what happened in Texas, there's a lot of people saying that the Fed will probably not raise rates. I think it's September 15th is the second day of the next FOMC meeting where they will decide. We'll have to wait and see. Yeah, I personally think they will probably not raise rates. If you look at the bond market, the yields, the 10-year yield is continuing to come off. You know, we're about 217, even though the 2-year yield is, you know, 134. But the curve is starting to like not invert, but it's flattening quite a bit, which means that the investors don't think there's any risk of higher prices or inflation in the longer part of the curve. So maybe it's telling the Fed that that's enough. So so that's it for now. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. And if you'd like to make a donation, there's some links below in the description. And I'll talk to you later. Take care.